tell you what, cowboys are notorious for being fearless and doing things that they know is going to hurt, but they do them anyway. and know that, they say insanity, doing the same thing, expecting a different result. I do the same thing every year, and I know what's coming. So I don't expect a different result. One thing is, first I'll talk about cowboy pride. Cowboy pride is this fearless pride in yourself, which actually pales in comparison, however, it goes along with a Texan's pride. People in Texas are kind of proud of where they're from. I remember a story talking about a New Englander coming down to Texas for vacation and meeting a Texan in Love Field. And the Texans were like, "Oh yeah, you're from here? Well, let me tell you about Texans, boy. We're a great state. We got right down there, and if you're looking for places to go, right down there in San Antonio, got the Alamo, where 13 men stood against 5,000 of Mexico's troops, just held them out for 13 days, fought to the last man." You see that statue right over there? That statue is for Bill McDonald, one of the best Texas Rangers ever lived. He come down here to Dallas to break up a prize fight. And when they said, well, are you going to do that alone? He said, "But I ain't one prize fight. Don't just need one ranger." He said, "Man, we're flooded with our heroes, and we love them." And New Englander says, "Well, we got our share of heroes too." "Yeah?" He said, "Yeah. Oh, Paul Revere, for example." He said, "Oh yeah, that fella who wrote for help." Now, but saying that, we're proud people. And the only people that rival us for pride in where they come from are Brits. Have you ever talked to someone from England or Ireland or Scotland or any of the British Isles? Have you ever talked to someone and asked them, "Are you British?" You're almost going to have a fight before you get away from them. I've done that several times and I've learned my lesson. Because unless you are not from there, you can say you're British. Or they can say they're British. But if you're from there and you ask someone from there, they're either Scot, Welsh, Irish, or English. And if they're from England and they're from the city of London, then they're from London. And they're pretty militant about that. And that's okay. And every year around this time, I always preach about how Americans stood against the tyranny of England. And within 5 minutes of me leaving this stage, Sue Hodges has beat me down. Because I was talking against, His Majesty. And that's okay. I expect it. And it's fun, actually. She does it in jest as well, but kind of, I think. But I talk about this, and I go to reading about the 4th of July, and you read all these things that people send you, and I actually got on Facebook and read a bunch of stuff, and one thing that I really liked was from Samuel Adams, and no, not the beer. There was a quote. He said, "If taxes are laid upon us in any shape without our having legal representation where they are laid, are we not reduced from the character of a free subject to the miserable state of tributary slaves?" Now, I had to read that because I ain't no way I was going to remember all those words. So, here's what I'm wondering. What was taxation without representation? We have 2 lawyers here, so they're going to eat me alive here in just a few minutes, I know. Taxation without representation, in my terms, is we had nobody to stand up for us at Parliament. Therefore, when the King levied the Stamp Act or the Tea Act or something like that, and he could levy it on us as hard as he wanted to, we had no one to fight for us. So, am I right so far? So, in that, he could do whatever he wanted, and we were just there. We had to abide. So, what did we do? we got up, and at first it was not wanting to be free from England. It was not to be our own nation. We just wanted to get them to understand that we can't abide these taxes too much longer and still survive. And it turned into, we won our sovereignty from England. And we fought, and we won that sovereignty. And we live in a nation today that's proud, and there's probably, if you look at the way the things are going, we're going back to the taxation without representation, but we really have our own, our congressmen and our senators and the branches of government that meet together, separate powers, and they are elected by us to represent us for when they start doing these things. And that's cool. I like that. But let's look at our spiritual life. Let's look at what we have today. When God created us, we were a free-willed people made for His fellowship. He wanted someone to fellowship with Him, not a robot, so He gave us a free will. First rattle out of the box, we mess it up. Right? Eve ate the apple, gave it to Adam, he ate the apple, and they blamed it on everybody else. The American way. So, what happened is, because they sinned, they were kicked out of the garden, and now they had to live by a set of rules to appease God, to still fellowship with Him. And of course, we messed that up. So, here we go. I'm going to go back and forth, read the Bible and talk to you, but here we go. We are living in a time now I'm not talking about just today, I'm talking about since we left the Garden of Eden, we are living in a time that we have to have I guess you say an intermediary, is that the word? Somebody go between us and God. Now God, when we pulled him out of Egypt, he got Aaron. He said, "You're going to be a group of priests for life." And he said, that's what you're going to do. You are going to go. You're going to have to purify yourself. You're going to have to keep clean. You're going to go between the people of Israel, my chosen people, and me. And I'll talk through you. And then he had the prophets, and he talked through the prophets. Why don't we have a priest, so to speak, a high priest today? Why are we allowed to go straight to God? Amen. Let me pull out my old man glasses. All right. In Romans 8 and 31, I'm sorry, I should have told you that earlier. Romans 8:31, we're going to talk about how to do this. And while you're turning there, I want to say this because we've got a couple of attorneys here. There was an obscure attorney that nobody really knows who he is, named Abraham Lincoln. And at one time, he was talking about representation and going before courts. And if I'm not mistaken, he said something like, the person who defends himself or represents himself has a fool for a client. Why? Because if I was going to, let's just say for instance, I was accused of mass murder, capital crime, and I'm going to defend myself against a needle, okay? I did not do it, but there's a lot of circumstantial evidence that says I did. I'm going to go represent myself. The problem with that is there's a lot of emotions. There's a lot of stuff involved that is going to hinder me from defending myself objectively. I get an attorney. Now the attorney's going to get their money whether we win or lose, right? But the only thing they have to lose is reputation, right? Basically, reputation is everything to an attorney. Right?
Trust God.
Try it. But earthly, the only thing really an attorney's going to lose their reputation, which is really going to pull food from the mouths of their kids. So, they can be objective, something like that. They can do it without having all this stuff clouding their minds. Even attorneys hire attorneys because they want someone who's going to be able to represent them. So, do we have an attorney spiritually? Again, it's Romans 8:31. Paul said, "What then shall we say in response to this? If God is for us, and who can stand against us? He who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all, how will he also, along with him, graciously give us all things? Who will bring any charge against those who God has chosen? It is God who justifies. Who is he that condemns? Christ Jesus, who died, more than that, who is raised to life, is at the right hand of God and is also interceding for us." Christ is interceding for us. Now, go back to that situation. I have not committed a crime. I'm brought before the judge or the courts, and I need someone, because if I trust me, I went once in front of a judge, and I'm glad I had a lawyer, because there was a whole lot of stuff I would have messed up. Now, I have this guy or this woman that is going to go represent me before the court. They know the rules, theoretically. They know how to do these things, the process. They know how to ask questions. I might know what questions to ask, but they know how to ask these questions. They went to school to do it. Now, we've got Christ sitting on a throne, the right hand of God. And when the prosecuting attorney, i.e. the devil, comes up and says, "But would you look at what this dude did? All these things that he's done back here." What happens? Christ said, "Okay, yes, you're right. He did do some things. But there's one thing he did do. He gave his life to me. I paid for the sins that he committed. Therefore, this guy's innocent. Any punishment levied on him should be given to me." And it was. On the cross, over 2,000 years ago, in Jerusalem, or outside of Jerusalem. So Christ represents us. Why is it important? Let's think about this. I'm going to represent myself before God. Yeah. Now, I have no idea of God's ways, because it's a mystery. I have no idea how to talk to God other than through prayer. And I ain't got to look him in the eye when I do that. And I am not even worthy to be in the same vicinity as him. That's like waking up one morning and go, man, I think my appendix is inflamed. Let me get my pocket knife out and give myself an appendectomy. That's a wise choice. Why not have someone who knows the process, knows the language, and knows the rules to defend us? He's there. And the fees have been paid. And the cool thing is, if you don't win, you don't owe anything, right? Yeah, right. Okay. So, how long does this defense last? When you give Christ your retainer of everything, your entire person, how long does that retainer last? In Hebrews, I can get back down to it. In Hebrews, this is in 7:23. He said, now there have been many of those priests since death prevented them from continuing in office. But because Jesus lives forever, he has a permanent priesthood. Therefore, he is able to save completely who comes to God through him, because he always lives to intercede for them. Now, how long does his term last? Well, the word "always" in there kind of gives you an idea. When you give him the retainer, it's enough. And it lasts an eternity. You're not going to get to heaven and God says, okay, well, Christ said he died for you and you get to stay. But you only get to stay for 3 years because of really what you did. You know, there's no sliding scale there. He saves completely. It never goes away. So, in the Old Testament, as we had to sacrifice, we had to go to the priest. The priest had to do the sacrificing for us, actually. We went and we brought the bull or the dove or whatever it was we brought, and we had to sacrifice. And then we had to live according to laws that we couldn't live by. There was only 10. We messed those up easily. So we couldn't do this. We had to keep going back to sacrifice. And I messed up, I got to sacrifice again. And now I got to sacrifice again. And we keep doing this because we're interceding for ourselves now, remember? The priest is only there to cut the throat of the animal and then put it on the altar. We're the ones doing all the work. Christ came. He is the sacrifice. He paid the attorney fees. He is the attorney. He intercedes for us. And he never quits. Ever. Now I touched on the pride. Pride of a cowboy, pride of a Texan, pride of an Englishman. I don't know what you'd call him. You know, the pride of strong people that pales in comparison to the pride of a Christian. I want you to think about that. You have the best fire insurance that can be had. No money can afford this. And trust me, this is a real danger. I can show you many times in the Bible where he said, cast him into the lake of fire, where there'll be a gnashing of teeth, wailing and a gnashing of teeth. I don't want to know what a gnashing of teeth is. I can imagine, that's all I want to do. It's a fire insurance that cannot be had anywhere else. And it lasts forever. And it's paid for. All you got to do is sign up. If you're here today, and you have not signed up for your fire insurance, if you have not signed up to have Christ represent you before God, then in that case, you're in trouble. You've got a fool for a client. Because I promise you, the prosecutor is very good at what he does. Anybody ever feel guilty for something that happened 30 years ago? That's what he does. God is there to judge. Christ is there to keep us and shield us from that judgment. How do you get this? How do you sign up for this? It's very simple. Just a simple prayer. I won't lead you in that prayer. Something that everyone should think about if God's calling you. Bow your head and pray with me. Lord, I've been trying to do things on my own. Lord, I know I'm wrong. I can't live in this world and keep myself to your standard. The temptations are great. Lord, I need you. I need you to cleanse me. I need you to be the one who intercedes to God for me. I want you to empty the sin out of my heart. Fill me up with your Holy Spirit. Lord, I ask you to do this in your Son's holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Folks, that's the most important thing you can do. Now today we're going to celebrate the price paid by God, by Christ on the cross. And we're going to celebrate by breaking bread. And I ask you, before you do this, if you have any stain on your heart, anything against your brother, your sister, ask God to forgive you. And then go straight from here and ask forgiveness from them. Don't do this with a light heart. Let's ask a blessing on the folks who did this. Lord, thank you so much for dying on the cross for us. Thank you, Lord, for giving us the opportunity to remember you through the breaking of this bread. Lord, I pray that you bless the ones that have put it together. Bless the ones that are serving it. Lord, I ask you to bless those who are here, who showed up after this long weekend to partake. I ask these things in your Son's holy name. Amen. All right. Now, what I didn't tell you is that if anyone here is confused about what I've been talking about up here, we have two attorneys. Go talk to them. No, I'm joking. If anyone's confused about what I've been talking about up here, I'm going to grab my cup of coffee afterwards, and I'm going to go in and have a seat. Y'all come on in and talk to me. It ain't hard. It ain't hard. You don't have to be a college graduate. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. It's simple. Christ came and talked to the simplest folks in the world. He came to fishermen, tax collectors, who are not really simple, but he also came to freedom fighters. He came to not to the doctors and the lawyers and the politicians or the priests. He came to common folks. Listen, it's important. It's important that you know this, because the alternative is bleak. Christ is coming back. And from what I'm seeing in the world today, Christ is coming back soon. And I sure hate to know that you met that day and you came before God and he said, "Depart from me, I never knew you." I know that for me and my family, I can honestly say right now, me and my entire family, when we come before God, he's going to say, "Welcome home, my good and faithful servant." Why? Because we know him. We don't just know of him, we know him. We have a personal relationship with him. Has everybody been served?
Just 1 second.
Nope. I mean, I got to stand up and vent for a little while.
Yes, sir.
All right, we're good. Thank you, because I was running out of stuff. Listen, let's go to the Lord, and I'm going to ask you. I'm going to give you a moment to talk between you and God. Just you and God. Talk to him. Ask him for forgiveness. Just look to yourselves. Then look to God. Lord, I come to you asking forgiveness for I've fallen short. Lord, I know I haven't lived right. I've not been living right. But Lord, I believe that you came on the cross and died for my sins. Lord, that As David said, that so long ago that you have searched me. You have found my weakness. You've tried me. You've found my anxious thoughts. You've found that there is wicked in me, and you've cleansed me of that. And you're leading me to the way everlasting. And I thank you, Lord, for that sacrifice that you made. I pray, Lord, that I remember it not just on the first day of the month, or first Sunday of the month, Lord, but every day of the month and every day of the year, of every year. The sacrifice you made. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.